blue ribbon never lets me down. What's up, guys? Welcome to On Tap. My name is Kevin and I'm your host. You can join me here every Thursday for just enough, but not too much of the good stuff. And hey, I hope you've been having a great summer. I just spent a couple weeks with my family out east and it was awesome. If you ever think about going to New Hampshire, it's beautiful, do it. There's mountains there, it's great. And New York, the Finger Lakes, Watkins Glen State Park, Google that stuff. It's beautiful out there. You know, while on my vacation, I wondered, will I run into Guy Fieri? And I only thought about him because my daughter asked me, why do you have such a problem with Guy Fieri? And I really have nothing wrong with Guy Fieri, except when he does things like this.
Like here, to some of the greatest friends a guy could ever have, and I sure wish they were here right now.
Okay, so I spent all this time out in the mountains. I was out by the trees and the forest. Everything's so beautiful out there. There's waterfalls and stuff, swimming in rivers. It was great. And it got me kind of thinking, looking at all these trees, about this story that I was told once by a very wise person in my life who said that a tree in your backyard, tree in your garden, around your house, whatever, a tree in your backyard is kind of this parallel, this metaphor for the thing that you have going on in your life that you want to eliminate the most. So when she first told me that, I was like, what are you talking about? So she went on to explain, and I'll explain it to you. So she told me it's like this. She goes, there are things in your life that you would like to eliminate, that you would like to not have anymore. And maybe you're thinking of that thing right now, okay? And think of it. There's something you do that you're like, I really don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to behave this way anymore, but I keep doing it, all right? She said, we all got those things, those behaviors, those patterns, those habits. And she said, think of it like this tree in your backyard. She goes, initially when you kind of become aware that you want to get rid of this thing in your life, it's like going out with the axe to the tree in the backyard and hacking the snot out of this thing till it falls over. You'll light a bonfire, torch the whole thing, go back inside, and you're like, there we go. Look, I'm not doing it anymore. It's not in my backyard anymore. Because there was some kind of anger, some kind of drive, some kind of fed upness that forced you to go out and chop the tree down, that forced you to go, I don't want to do this thing anymore in my life. So she's explaining this. I'm like fascinated by this idea. She goes, but here's the thing. So many of us go out there, we chop the tree down, we go back inside the house, and then we go out in the backyard a few days later, and what's coming out of the ground? There's a little sprout. You're like, it's not coming back. I got this under control. It's not coming back. You go back inside the house, come out a week later, and now there's like half a tree growing in the backyard where you chopped down the tree. She goes, and we keep doing this over and over again in our lives. We have a problem, we see something inside of ourselves we want to change, and we take the axe to it and we try to chop it down. She's like, but it never works. It doesn't stick. Why doesn't it stick? For me, at the time, it was overthinking. I was like a hardcore textbook overthinker. And a lot of people are when they're in their early 20s, they're overthinking, what am I going to do with my life? Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to live? All this kind of stuff. What am I going to do for work? And I was in the thick of that. And I wanted to get rid of overthinking in my life because it was like ruining my days. I was just so caught up in just overthinking and overanalyzing things. Maybe you felt that way before. And she told me, you have got to stop trying to chop down the tree of overthinking in your backyard. You got to stop it. Because trying to stop doing something, trying to say, this isn't a part of me anymore, out of anger, never sticks. It never works. She's like, instead, what if you didn't try to chop down the tree? I was like, well, but then I would still be overthinking. She's like, no. See, what you've done, and this is the nuance in this story, she's like, what you've done is you've made the tree your identity. You've taken this thing that you want to get rid of in your life, that you want to eliminate, and you've made it who you are. And it's not who you are. This thing you're doing in your life right now, maybe you did it today. Maybe you're doing it in this moment. Maybe you're going to do it later. I don't know what it is. That's not who you are. You are like more than just all the separate parts, and especially your weakest, most negative parts, the parts you want to get rid of. She's like, but what if you left the tree there and you were able to get some distance from it so that you could see it differently? Instead of trying to eliminate being an overthinker, what if you looked at it differently and thought, how do I overthink? What gets me that stressed out that I start to think in this way? She's like, because the reality is, the tree's always gonna be in your yard. If you can't chop it down, then you might as well figure out a way to have a different relationship with it, to have a different understanding of it, so that it's less about the anger and the shame and the frustration that you're living under every time you go out in the yard and you chop that thing back down and it comes back up. And instead you can look at it differently and understand how it grows, what makes it show up. And so there's a separation from you and that thing about you that you wish you could change the most. And you know what's the ironic part of this? In trying to not chop down the tree anymore, I forgot it was there because it didn't control me anymore. It wasn't my focus. Not being the thing that I didn't want to be stopped becoming my focus, and then I started actually being the thing I wanted to be. It was mind-blowing, and I can't even, I just can't. I can't even imagine going back to living the way that I lived before. So I don't pick up that axe anymore. At least I try not to. Because I'm going to that tree differently. So whatever it is for you today, I don't know what it is. And I hope this wasn't too deep, man. This was supposed to be like light beer conversations, and this might have been a dark one today. But I hope that you're encouraged to know that that thing about you that you are struggling with, that you're dealing with, that you are ashamed of, is not who you are. You are not that thing. You are more than that. You've been created to be more than that. And I hope that today can be the first step for you in putting down the axe, stepping back from the tree, and going, and maybe you're not a praying person, but maybe you pray this time and go, hey, God, help me to understand how to have a different relationship with this in my life. Help me to look at this thing differently so I can get a better result. And I challenge you to do it because I promise you something different will happen. And I think it's going to be something good. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. As always, like and subscribe to get more super good stuff. We're going to have some great new guests in the coming weeks, and I don't want you to miss it. Have a good one.